Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast, and we're going to talk about impact today because we have Chelsey Albert in the studio. And here's the thing, folks. She is an intuitive hypnotherapist and master at anxiety control, and we're going to have a good conversation, and it's going to be a lot about impact. So please help me welcome Chelsey Albert.
Hey, Jim, I am so stoked to be here. I'm just a huge fan of your work. I'm a huge fan of this podcast, so I am really excited to be having this chat today.
Let's go. In true Impact Effect podcast, we ask everybody the same question. How do you define impact and show up in the world and provide positive impact today?
All right. Impact is an unlocking and an activation. That is how I look back at the people who've really truly impacted me the most, both in positive and negative ways, or in ways that I thought was negative and turned out to be positive. There was an unlocking there. It's an unlocking of the capacity that's always been deep within. And as a healer, it's my job to help people unlock those doors and help them activate that next highest level of themselves. I don't know, it's really, really interesting because when I go out, I try to actually put away the idea of impact. I know that a lot of us who want to make an impact, that is the forefront of our mind. But when I do that, I get in my head. So I have to set the intention at the beginning of the day and then let the day take me where it's going to take me. When I just allow that to happen, I notice some really interesting things happen, and things that I don't even mean to say, or things that I'm not even aware that I'm saying, somebody will take, and that was what they needed to hear that day. And I find that that is the way that I actually impact people the most, and the way that I can show up is just being open and just being curious about people. And just by doing that, we can activate so many new levels for other people. And that can happen in a positive way or not so positive way. Sometimes we do activate, or sometimes negative things get activated within us. Sometimes we do activate doubt within other people. Sometimes other people have activated doubt within us. My mentor, Steve Rame, who's a fabulous hypnotherapist, he always said that the best hypnotists are teachers, preachers, doctors, and parents. So it's my intention at the beginning of every morning to activate people in a positive way. And I find that that's led down some really, really cool roads for myself and for them.
Let's go. Let's dive into some of that. Oh, man. Wow. Okay. All right. We got a lot to talk about.
I do tend to approach things from the side, by the way, so it might be a very interesting conversation.
So, unlocking levels, positive impact, negative impact, doors opening, living up to your full capacity and unlocking that. Where did all this come from? Like, how is this your definition of impact? Is that something that's always been on your heart? Has that been in your studies or in your work? Tell us about some of that.
So I have little person syndrome, big time. I'm travel size, I'm 5'2", and I always grew up feeling invisible, actually. I never really felt seen, or I always felt like I was trying to catch up to people, and I've always desired to make an impact. So for the first part of my life, a lot of it was really striving and struggling, trying to force an impact, trying to force people to see me, trying to hustle and grind and just force my way into doing something big so that people would then have no choice but to see me, which is not really the best reason for having an impact. That's over time that started shifting within me. My motivation started shifting from my own wounding to, okay, I want to actually do good for someone. I want to change their life in a positive way. And that's not going to come from me just wanting to be seen. That's going to come from me paying attention to them and bringing something out of them. And that's really kind of where all of that curiosity started. I've been in different industries, and I have found that the best way to impact people is to get curious about them first and see what they are actually needing to unlock. So that actually really deepened kind of a few years into my beauty industry career. I was doing eyelash extensions, And I noticed that people were starting to come in every couple of weeks, and I could see it. I could see what their problem was. I could see what everything was. Oh, if you just did this, if you just made one little tweak, oh, your life would be so much easier. And they would come in with the same problem every couple of weeks. And no matter what I said, I didn't really have the permission to give them that advice. They were coming in to blow off steam. They were coming in for that safe space to blow off steam. And which was great. I was providing them that space, and that was all fine and good, but I wanted to work with people on a deeper level. I wanted to help them enact the change that I saw they were capable of. Flash forward to ending a toxic marriage and getting free on the other side of that. Then my mission really became to help people become free. And there are so many little ways that we kind of get pulled around by the media, by politics, by other people's influence that maybe doesn't have our best interest, by old patterns, just by old wounds and old things that just kind of yank us back to the past. I really started focusing on how do I help people become more free? And that's an impact that comes from within. There's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can do to smack somebody in the face with freedom. That's something that's got to come from within them. So I realized that my impact is more of a pulling out rather than a pouring in.
I love it. I love it. The word force, when you think of the definition of impact, typically a lot of people relate to one thing smashing into another. There's a force driven into each other. And I totally understand how that makes sense for the definition, but I think in the world of impacting individuals and showing up on a human connection, deep level with them, you really can't just push and force, because it's not like, you're pushing them through to the other side. You're actually pushing them back.
Right. And yeah, I'm definitely one of those people you try to tell me what to do and I will do the exact opposite. But also, if you think of it impact, I'm just visualizing right now, there's the impact of the hit and the colliding into. And sometimes that is what impacts people. It's like, oh my God, their world just opens up because you've shattered that wall. But impact can come from the explosion outward too. Explosions create a massive impact. And when somebody explodes outward, they impact others too. And that's so cool.
I love it. I love the reference to in your journey around the fact that you felt like you were forcing impact and you wanted to show up and continue to have that positive effect on people, but it sounded like that might have been out of alignment. How did you navigate that? Because there's so many people that I think in my world that I know on a deep level, on a not so deep level, that I can see that they're just pushing through and forcing through everything to try to get to that next level, and they're hitting their head up against the wall over and over and over again.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many rabbit holes I could go down with that. I'm going to try to keep this concise. I think honestly, it's always been in me. I remember a conversation that I had with my dad, and I wanted to be in the film industry because I looked up to him so greatly, and he's still just, the funny thing is I looked up to him because he impacted people. I looked up to him because, much like yourself actually, he made connections. He didn't just make connections with himself and between himself and others. He made connections for other people. He helped people start their careers. He helped people grow in their careers. And I always looked up to him, I think, for that. I don't think I actually cared too much about cinematography if I'm really looking at it. But I remember having a conversation with him. Apparently, actually, I don't even remember this. He remembers this. When I had started drifting away from that dream, I said, I just want to do something with more impact. I just want to do something that helps more people. And my dad, very lovingly, I was kind of hoping he could open some doors for me too. So he was like, well, documentaries help people. I was like, no, I want to, yeah. So that's a little side tangent to the tangent there. But how I worked through it was simply, it just didn't work for me. I saw myself trying to convince my beauty clients that, this is exactly what they had to do or this is exactly what they should do. They didn't listen. I felt bitter. I felt like, okay, well, why am I here then?
That word bitter.
Yeah.
That word bitter is very familiar to Jim Morris.
Really?
Yeah, I think whenever I'm out of alignment, I feel bitter, and it's a reminder that I need to process better. So if I can change the word bitter with better in my mindset, then it's going to get me out of that negativity, see the immediate awareness in it, and be able to move on quicker. Because I'm not perfect and I do get bitter. And I'm usually bitter when I don't listen to my gut, when I am flooded with fear and I can't position or switch it to excitement. There's different levels of that, right? We talk about
Yeah.
unlocking our levels here.
Exactly.
But usually that's when I can recognize like my body physique, I can feel the pressure rising up like in my blood. I think you and I have had this conversation. Like I
Yeah.
can feel it like in my
Exactly, it
body.
is. It starts right here. It is. It's that little cartoonish, like, level.
That's usually when I'm like, all right, I'm being bitter. I need to get better. I need to work on the thought of the awareness and work through it in that real time moment. And
I
my ADD, ADHD, my type A personality is like, I need to do it now because if I don't, then it gets buried, then it gets a bigger issue down the road.
So you said something really interesting just there. I totally, by the way, I love the shift of bitter to better. Just that quick little, if you can train your mind to just get back there, it works so beautifully. But you said right now. And in your, especially in your work and in, I dare say I call this a calling. I'm guessing for you, right? Oh yeah.
I would think so.
It seems deeper than work. But in your way of being, do you notice that there's a lot of people, or do you notice there's ever been a time for yourself where you've started trying to force that impact, or they've started trying to force that impact before they were really fully developed in themselves to make that impact? I think that was one of the things that I personally struggled with, was like, yeah, I need to make impact now. I'm 20, but I need to make impact now.
I think you're chasing the outcome in a lot of ways, and you're missing a lot of the steps that are going to make you just astronomically better by slowing down a little bit. And I do this all the time. Like I'm getting aware of it, but there's times where I'm like, oh, that person needs help with this. And like, I know a lot about that, but I've never actually helped someone with that. And I have to stop myself and be like, this is not my realm. This is not my lane. Like, I can help you start an LLC. I can help you file the paperwork. I can get you set up on QuickBooks. I can help you file with the Department of Revenue, right? Like, I can do all that for that early entrepreneur, but that's not where I need to step in. And like, I can do it, but am I the right person to do it? Probably not, because I don't want to actually execute a lot of those things that don't take a lot of brain power. That's just where I'm at in my life, right? And I say that at a point where I'm just grateful for the team I have and the people on my team that execute those type of tasks, but like I'm just not at that level to go and do that as a skill or a business or to help someone, because I probably will mess it up. Like I won't have the patience to perfectly fill out the forms.
Oh yeah, that takes a whole special other kind of gift that I just do not have. To those who can do that, to the lawyers and the accountants, God bless you.
Where's the line though of I don't know enough about it to make the impact, and I can be making impact and I'm not?
Ooh. Ooh, ah. That's a tough one. So where's the line between where you discern where you could make impact but don't necessarily have that ability versus, yes, I have that ability, I'm just sitting on my butt? Okay.
It's almost like the play button. Where does the play button sit?
So in everything that I've understood and my own experience, the human brain craves safety. It craves comfort. It craves what we know. Absolutely, I know how to do that. I'm comfortable doing that. Let's do that. The heart and the spirit, however, crave evolution and expansion. So we've got this ongoing discomfort between our brains and our hearts going, yes, I want to see what I can do. I want to test this. I want to test what I'm made of. And then there's the brain going, yeah, but we're not ready just yet. I think that's where, I think there's a little tiny, I took an advertising class and the guy drew a almost complete circle. And he pointed to the gap and he said, that is the gap that you want to leave people at. the gap where they are closing that circle themselves. And I see it kind of as that's where the play button is, where that little teeny tiny gap of everything in me is saying I can do this, except for my brain. That's where you want to hit play, because that is when that magical all that isness takes over, and you can get some really interesting growth and some really interesting magic out of that. Honestly, that's kind of where I work, and that's kind of where I play, is in that little gap of I don't actually know for sure, but I'm trusting something greater than me is going to flow through this moment and deliver what needs to be said, what needs to be heard, what needs to be done. And I live my life in that kind of trust, and it's led me to some really cool places, and it's led to some really cool things that I have not even been able to plan for my clients.
Share a couple
Yeah.
of those with us. Yeah, because you got me all jazzed up
Yeah.
over here. I'm like, oh, what's coming next? Let's go.
Yeah, so honestly, my very first client, and to anyone who's listening to this podcast and wants to make that impact and wants to hit play, but just maybe just needs one more class or just one more certification, this is for you. My very first client was not actually a paid client. I was doing her lashes. Okay, she has her eyes taped closed, and she's telling me for the 40th time in our 3 years together how she the dating thing, and she does, and she wants to, and she doesn't, and she doesn't want to, but she really really wants to find someone, but she really really doesn't want to date because she's been through some really traumatic relationship endings. And finally that little circle just closed and said, you know what, let me try something. It was almost like somebody else was talking, but I said, okay, you know what, let me try something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, no worries. But I actually took her through one of my intro, hypnosis things that I knew how to do that I had practiced a couple times, but had never really done for anybody who didn't know what I could do. And after one session of that, she said it felt like a weight had lifted off of her shoulders. And I went, ooh, okay, all right. She comes back, she says, well, actually, I put myself on a dating app, and I think I found a guy. We're going to go on a date. We do another lash/hypnosis session. And she comes back and she says, yeah, I think I actually really like this guy. We do one more, and she got married to him, I think 1 or 2 years ago.
Whoa.
And that was that space of just like, I have no idea how this is going to go. This is my first client who wasn't part of my classes, who wasn't kind of like trying to support me and say, yeah, that totally worked. And to see that, it gives me chills to this day. I think she will always be my biggest success story, because I saw her go through, we both saw each other go through that.
Yeah. It was a mutual experience with massive growth.
Yeah.
For both of you.
It's so great. I mean, to this day, that's what fills my heart up. To this day, that is what gets me like choked up. I did cry when she told me that.
It's crazy, because if you didn't take that little leap over that little space, or you didn't push to complete that circle fully, that woman's life may not have been where it is today, and she may never have felt or experienced love at a deep level.
It's interesting. I believe she would have. I really truly believe that all of my clients and everybody that I interact with, we all have that capacity. And I think we're all going to get there at some point. It's just a matter of how quickly do you want to do it? Do you want to wait another 20 years to do it? Do you want to wait another 20 years to live that life that you want? Or do you want to live it closer to now? And that's my job. But I truly do believe it's not me doing it. And that's where it comes down to unlocking I'm just a electric wire for the healing. And it's my job to just help you activate that even quicker. Another really cool moment of having to just trust and hope, and then realizing that trust was rewarded, was I had a client who was terrified of flying. I mean, had to have her meds on standby, had to go have a couple at the bar, and she loved to travel. This was a phobia that happened to her after a couple of really rough flights, but she loved to get actually out and about once she was there. And her session went totally differently than I usually would have expected it. I go in, I might have a general idea of what's going to happen, but then the client's unconscious mind comes up with all kinds of cool stuff that I'm sitting there and I'm on the journey with them.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me like nothing was happening. She was seeing colors, and I knew she was in the experience, but there was nothing that I could verbally tell was really storyline wise, helping her out. She goes, okay, yeah, no, I feel good after, after the session. And I'm like, good, because I don't know if you just got a light show, I don't know how effective this is going to be. I didn't tell her that, but everything in my heart was like, oh God, oh God, oh God. She called me. Actually, no, she sent me flights from the plane and said that she didn't know what I did to her, but she is calm, cool, and collected. And I was like, I did nothing. I have no idea what happened, but that was awesome.
But you gave that space, and that opened up that opportunity for that journey to happen for her.
Yeah, it's that curiosity of just, I have to trust that what's happening for them is what's necessary. And I have to trust that what is happening for the people that I impact, whether it's in session or whether it's just having a cup of coffee, I have to trust that they are receiving the impact that they need. And I'm curious what your perspective on this is. I've learned that impact is a two-way street. We can do our best to impact people in a positive way. Sometimes they won't receive it in a positive way due to what their own beliefs are, what they're hanging on to, or sometimes we can affect people in an accidentally unpleasant way, breakups for higher alignment or leaving jobs or even just losing our temper, which anyone who is parented knows it is. The people we love will push our buttons. And sometimes that awakens something even greater. That awakens a greater push within us to prove that person wrong. So what are your thoughts on the two-way street of impact?
Well, I think I've seen so many instances where impact can cause you to take action or not take action. And I think that action doesn't need to be physical, as far as like I say this and you need to go actually do something, right? And I think that's where it gets really convoluted around where does impact lie? Where does it end? Where does it start? Where does it stop? For instance, I could say something to you right now and you could hear it 5 years later from maybe even me again.
Yeah.
It's the same person, the same sentence, and it causes you to take action, whether it's physically to change something or mentally to change something. I think back of like the day that my life changed and I felt that I stepped into my calling and really started to become who I was something that I've heard a million times before.
Really?
But in that moment, in that setting, in that atmosphere, in that timing, which I think timing is one of the most unique things, because for the obvious reason, it's the only thing we can't control to an extent.
Yeah.
Right? But like you can't, unless you go against the whole world operating on some similarity of a time spectrum, like you can't just increase time. But also because the time it takes to understand something, the time it takes to download something, the time it takes for you to take action on it is just so drastically different amongst everybody. Yeah. And I think it comes down to individualization and, creation of humans being so unique and drastically different.
Yeah.
But the impact, when I heard the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself, I've probably heard that and read that 100 times. But in that moment, in that timing, in 2023, right before having my first child, right before getting married, knowing that alcohol wasn't serving me, like that caused me to digest that at such a level where I was open and available to receive it, to then immediately take action, start writing down in my phone, Ellie will be like ... writing 50, 60 things and then realizing I wasn't half of them.
Ooh. Wow.
Even though I've heard that 100 times.
Wow.
Even though I've woken up and looked in the mirror and didn't like what I've seen and just continue to do the same thing over and over. In that moment, that changed. Literally everything in my life changed. Everything. And I've heard that 100 times, and I've actually heard the same person say it. I heard it on a podcast 5 years prior. It was Bradley and Ed Milet. Bradley was on Ed Milet's podcast in Bradley's studio. And then I saw Bradley on stage. And then I got an opportunity to tell him this because he had me on his podcast. So it was just this really wild experience that Again, I literally heard it from his mouth 5 years ago, and it meant nothing to me. I've heard it a million times. I've read it in books. It meant nothing to me. And
Yeah.
now here I am today working on a book called The Most Important Relationship.
It's wild. It really is. I think there's something to be said about that timing, though. And isn't it interesting that also it's the timing of who you are that also sometimes creates your impact, going back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, with you can't force the impact. But the best way sometimes to increase your impact is to have done that work on yourself and to be so solid with yourself. I mean, some of the people who have impacted me most have been a generation or two ahead of me. And it's not this, it hasn't been one of my peers. It hasn't even been somebody a few years ahead of me. It's been somebody who has lived the life, gone through the trenches, and they just look at you with a depth of knowing that you go, ooh, okay.
It's funny you say that, because like when I did the first conference and financially it wasn't successful, like immediate financials, I thought like, wow, no one's going to ever want to work with me and like help me. Like I'll never be able to consult on events because I threw this big event and it lost money. The first thing everybody says to me is like, dude, I saw what you went through. I heard what you went through. Like, I want to work with you. I want to pay you to consult, because they're like, you're still doing it. You're still consistent. I want to learn what you learned. And then like I get on a call and we're talking about sponsorships and the person's like blown away. And I'm like, yeah, it's because guess what? I had a team who ran sponsorships and they all quit.
Yeah.
The first year I had a $50,000 sponsorship back out like 2 weeks before, right? Like, you know, like I've had hundreds of conversations and people never gave me $1. Like,
yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. That's exactly what makes you so impactful, is the fact that you can look someone in the eye and go, yep, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen. A, you're going to get through it because I got through it. B, let me show you how you cannot go through it. There's something to be said for somebody who has really just gone through it. And I do. I instinctively trust people who have been through more failures than success, because I don't want to learn from anybody or connect with anybody who is theorizing on what it should be. It's why I didn't get along well in college. It was all theory. It wasn't practical stuff. And some of the most deeply valuable, impactful wisdom I've ever received have been from people who have been through it. And I think that's just one of the things I really admire about you is you have, how do I say this without sounding like a jerk?
Pour it on me, Chelsey. Pour it on me.
I've learned a little bit of your story, and I know I only know the tip of the iceberg, but you have made what some people would call mistakes to the tune of experiences and dollar amounts that would make people cringe. And you have taken risks and you have done big giant things like putting on these conferences. You have had sponsors drop out to think, and these things are objectively outcomes that would terrify most people. And yet you continue, and every single time you continue, you make it better, you do it differently, you change it, or you stay the same knowing that, okay, this was actually a good aligned course, but these things need over here to be changed. And that is impactful. When people see other people doing what they believed was impossible, or what they want to call impossible, when they see people, going through those hard times like you went through on that first convention, or on that first event, when people see that though, and they say, oh, okay, he didn't have it perfect, I can do that. I bet you've impacted so many people that you haven't even met yet.
It's an interesting thing, because I think in the line of work that I've transitioned into has been the hardest internally and externally, because every client that I meet, I'm learning from as well. So when you get on a depth with someone that, I mean, you know about their family, you know about their kids, you know about their struggles, you know about some of their secrets, you know about things that they don't even tell their wives or their husband, or they're holding it all together and it comes out. And I can look at the little things like the sigh after I say something, and then I dig deeper. right? And it's like
Yeah.
when you start to dig deeper, you start to pick up all these little things that I now see in regular conversations because I'm so used to that little breath before someone says anything. And I know, okay, well, there's a lot of stress there. There's a lot of anxiety. Let me push on that and uncover it, because the first 2 or 3 things you say is just the surface, right? So like, as I'm doing that, I'm learning so much about people. I'm learning how to read them. I'm learning about things that shock me that you just would never know. And because they feel open and comfortable enough to share that, once I press that button, because I've done it in a comfortable, light manner, it's not aggressive, and they know it's a safe place. I mean, this is the work you do over and
Yeah.
over and over again, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just doing it on a little level as far as like connection one-on-one. You're doing it from this massive intuitive and all the education you've had. So I'm probably not even close to the level you're at, but if I can open that door, like you were saying, and then I'm learning so much just about things that people have accomplished, or I fell down the stairs and this happened, and then I built the stairs back up myself, hand
Yeah.
by hand and nail by nail. And those conversations don't typically happen on the surface level one-on-one work. And I think that's my goal, is to get there. So it's a conversation that doesn't just help you in your business or that specific department or with that specific employee, but how can you use this in your entire life? And it's interesting because a lot of it like comes back to dating or marriage. Like, a lot of business owners I know are single in their 30s, and like, we're talking about this stuff and they're like, yeah, and it's like they're like having similar conversations on like dating apps, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, this impacts, like, this could go crazy, right? Or like,
Yeah.
this could go rippled to whoever knows. I think it's something where I never know. And there's times where that's heavy, there's times where that feels light. There's stuff that I've said that completely was taken incorrectly or misinterpreted, or I said it and didn't mean something and it was perceived that way. So like, I think there's that balance, just like anything in life. I just hope I'm doing more good than bad, and I hope I'm at this age, because this definitely didn't happen for a long time in my life. But at this age, I'd rather be silent than hurtful, and I think in my 20s I'd rather be heard and hurtful than silent. And I don't need to talk as much. I like to talk, but I'd rather not say something than say something. Like, I remember in my 20s, like, I would dig for the deepest wounds and I would inflict those and I would hurt people with words. But I know that those words can create traumas and can create poor memories and can stay with people a long time. And even if I'm mad, or if you did me wrong, or you screwed me over, I don't want that ripple effect, because I was heated in the moment, to stay with you for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't, and that's great, and I hope it doesn't. Right?
Well, and that comes down to how it is received. And we all have the responsibility to take the things that impact us and work that impact around to the positive. For some, it's harder than others. Again, sometimes you need some help. Sometimes you need a coach. Sometimes you need a healer. Sometimes you need a therapist. Sometimes you need a lot of deep work. But I think the way that we empower ourselves is to know that those things that impacted us and wounded us, again, going to the times where we've been through the trenches, those are the things that are going to allow us to impact other people. And if we allow that within ourselves, we empower ourselves. I used to be really, really quiet. And a lot of times I would stuff myself into this box. I was super codependent. And I would stuff myself into this box trying to please everyone else. And now I'm in a season of my life where I'm learning that luckily I'm able to come from the other side of it. So I'm starting out a little bit on the softer end, but I'm starting to have to learn how to use my voice and how to be okay with pissing people off if it comes from a place of love. Absolutely, you're right. We have to be mindful of how we're speaking, of who we're speaking to, I think we do. I think you're absolutely right. We do always have to take that moment of silence to discern, is this worth it? Is this is this worth speaking the truth, or is this something that's just not gonna be heard no matter what, so I better stay quiet and just be peaceful. But there are times when we need to speak our truth, and we need to speak the truth.
100%.
I joke with my clients, they're basically paying me to be a pest. They are paying me to poke and to agitate and to bring out that thing so that it can be seen. And then we can start healing it. We can't heal on a fluffy level anymore. And I think the thing that helps me to kind of discern when to keep my mouth shut and when to actually poke just a little bit just to see what comes up is, A, do I have the permission? Is this a session or is this a coffee chat? Depending on the situation. Just like you with your coaching and your consulting. At what point, I'm sure there are those clients that you need to poke and pester just a little bit because you need to get that passion out of them.
Oh yeah.
But also, I think the one thing that if we can promise our integrity, that's where we start speaking truth rather than speaking hurt. There's only one thing I can really promise in healing, because any sort of healing, any sort of transformation, it really depends on how that person takes it in. Is it that right time for them to take it in? Is it that right time to realize that the most important relationship is with yourself? Are they going to hear it? Okay, is that time? No, cool. Go ahead and let that simmer. But if I come with my integrity, if I come with my values, did I come from a place of love? Not ego, not I want you to like me, not want you to like what I have to say, not I want to piss you off. Did I come from a place of love? Did I come from a place of truth, the best that I know it? Did I come from a place of trying to do the right thing, of really trying to surrender my ego and my judgment for the highest good of all? And I think we need to come from integrity. If we are going to speak, if we are going to accept that somehow, somewhere, we're going to step on someone's toes, we might as well do it with our integrity intact.
Well, I think it's what's the reason behind what you're saying or doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And if it's hurtful, or if it's the intent is to create negative response or hurt someone, then I mean, yeah, I think it's better off silent. But to your point, I think, see, that's the beauty of, one, just these types of conversations, but two, just that light and dark, that opposition. You're saying like you want to speak up more, right? I'm saying I need to shut the fuck up.
I will personally never be the one to tell you that, because I think that the words you're speaking now are great. And also, that's the thing is, what kind of words are you speaking?
But that's,
by all means.
But exactly, that is the thing, right? Where it's like, I would rather, before I would hurt you with an intent to hurt you with words, right? And now I'd rather just not say anything rather than hurt you. Because of maturity, because of it's not worth it, because I don't want that effect, even if you've robbed or hurt or, stolen something, right? Like,
yeah.
But there, again, you have to play certain roles in certain situations. We had someone knock on our door at 7 a.m. on a Saturday with a bloody hand. Ooh. And she needed a phone charger, and I started to read the situation, and I got a phone charger, and I'm like, where's the knife? Mm-hmm. And she's like, I didn't stab anybody. And right there, I was like, or someone didn't stab me, because her hand was bleeding, and I was like, she had the knife in her hand. And then I looked at her hand, and it was right here. Well, when your hand slides down a knife, what's the first place it slices? Right here. So she probably had a knife in her hand. It's like, you're not telling me the truth. Take the phone charger and get the fuck off my property right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what the situation is. You got to leave. Right? 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I've got literally Ellie 7 feet behind me. Right?
Yeah.
And that I needed to assert that aggression. Like, don't come here with these problems. It's a Saturday morning at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I gave you the phone charger. I gave you the napkin for your hand. I actually gave her a Band-Aid too, and just sent this woman off. But she was lying to me, right? And
yeah.
I wanted to have a positive impact. I want to help people. You come to my door, but there has to be that situation where now it's like, okay, now I'm dealing with someone who's not telling the truth. All of a sudden, what if she, I turn around to go get the phone charged. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
and it is, you're so right, because in that situation, you had to think about your daughter, you had to think about your family. There are multiple people that we're impacting all the time that either A, we know, or B, we don't know. And we also kind of have to surrender how we impact at a certain point. Once we've come from that place of love, and yes, you did come from a place of love for your family, a place of love, even, for this woman, you tried to do the best thing that you could without getting her into your home. And the thing is, you probably will never get to know how you impacted that woman. It might have sounded to your own ears like, get the fuck off my property. But to her, maybe you're the first one who didn't let her in and didn't let her continue with what was going on within her. Maybe that was a moment where she said, God, what am I doing?
she got what she wanted. She was just knocking on the door for a cell phone charger, and I let her keep it. So I feel pretty good about it. And
Yeah.
she started to be deceitful, and that was that. You
Yeah.
had said something earlier about opening doors, and I wanted to end our conversation on this because I think it's really, really powerful. So, in your line of work, you must have all different types of clients, different backgrounds, demographics, reasons why they're in your office, they're in your space. What are some situations or scenarios that you've kind of dealt with, and some of those doors you've opened up or unlocked for people?
Yeah, I think that's a really big thing that makes people kind of clam up when they hear that I offer hypnosis as one of my tools. I offer many other tools in the session, but a lot of people start going, oh my God, what's going to come up? What's going to open up? Some of it has been unpleasant. Yeah, there's been some heavy stuff. The truth is, and this is with any kind of healing, if it is coming up out of your unconscious mind, if that door can even unlock and crack open a bit, it means that you're ready to deal with it. Your unconscious mind is not going to try to break your conscious mind. Your mind isn't going to try to break itself. So I do have people who have really dove into the work and they have uncovered something very, very deep. I work a lot with victims of assault, whether it has been conscious or repressed. And I have to tell you, that is sometimes the very linchpin in their healing. They've been going at every other angle, and there is just something that they haven't been able to experience the healing of. They talk about it, they're aware of it, they might be consciously aware, they might have repressed it. But when they go through the experience of healing it, their life changes for the better. Everything just kind of falls off, and it's really cool to see that happen. Look, I don't know what generation of vampires you're from, but I was not from the generation where vampires sparkled. I was from the generation of Blade and all those guys where if you killed the original vampire, the rest of them died off. That's the work that I do. So for some people, the original vampire has been assault of various kinds. For some people, it's been wild. It's been wacky. It's been absurd. I've had people going through the experience and they will just, like, a mob car for one of them came up and just and like she jumped in the car and she was driving through this wild, like, city mafia scene, and that's what she needed. There was one guy who I actually use this as one of my examples to kind of illustrate how the unconscious mind works. I had this guy in the chair and he's in the experience. I could tell that he is actually, going through the experience of hypnosis, but nothing's really coming up for him. Nothing really super mind blowing. And then he just pauses and he goes, well, that's weird. I said, what's that? And he goes, well, there's just a bunch of floating bananas in front of me. I don't know what that means. Most people will tend to dismiss that from their unconscious mind, but I knew that the unconscious mind never gives you anything without intention. So I said, well, wonder what that means. And he thinks about it for a sec. He goes, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I remember my grandfather eating bananas. And phew, his mind was off to the races. He was having a conversation with his grandfather. His grandfather was giving him the wisdom that he needed, the answers that he needed. But it started with bananas. So I've had some random things. I've had some really deep things that just, I keep it very neutral in my sessions, and it's my job to not be emotionally involved. It's my job to be, again, that conduit of healing. But man, some of it makes your heart ache after the fact. It fires me up because the more people that I can help heal that, the more generational chains I'm breaking, the more generational cycles that I'm helping to break. And maybe I will personally never be I will definitely never be a policymaker. I may never be somebody who is on the front lines of change, but it is my deepest honor to be one of those people behind the scenes who is ending generational trauma for the next generation, who is impacting generations forward of impactful people. And oof, man, that's what lights me up.
You got my mind off to the races talking about that. The generational stuff, it's deep. It's really deep.
It's powerful.
Because it's you have no idea how deep that's going, how far, how long.
That's it.
Like, whew, think about that,
If I am never, now here's the thing. Yes, I do absolutely love talking. I love being out and among people. I love doing podcasts like this. And I do love being seen. But if I chose a reality, or if I had to choose a reality where nobody would ever know my name, but 4 generations down the line, we have created entirely different worlds because of the work I've done with the small fraction of the human population that I'm able to work with. Dude, that would be enough for me. That would be the impact I want. I'm playing the long game with impacts.
I love it. Wow, what a conversation today. A
This was
long
so
game
fun.
with impact. What a great way to wrap this conversation up. Wow. Thank you so much for being here. It's been just such a great conversation, so much depth. Your line of work is amazing. Anybody who's seeking to work through some traumas, I'd highly recommend Chelsey. I don't often recommend folks on the podcast, but I have been a client of hers. My wife has been a client of hers. And I'm happy to share in depth what my experience was, what the outcome has been, and the identification. There's a lot of things from that conversation, that experience that I'm now identifying in real time. And as you know, and I talked about earlier in the episode, awareness and working on it and moving through it in that immediate action phase is important to me. And you've opened that up to me. So thank you so much.
Jim, it has just been such an honor. An honor to be in this chat with you. An honor to know you and Caitlin. I mean, you are 2 amazing, incredibly people. And you're doing amazing, incredible work in this world. And again, I said this off camera when we were just chatting, but the impact you're having is only going to continue to grow as you go through your journey. So I am just super stoked to be watching this journey. And yeah, it really truly has been an honor to work with you both, because I work with the people who are really going to change the world. And I'm just really, really deeply honored. I don't think there's any other word for it.
I appreciate it.